Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here, and welcome back to another episode of Cardano Crack. Kind of very easy going. We'll talk about the latest, what's going on with Cardano, where we are. I'm joined as usual by Paddy, and also delighted this week to have Rick McCracken, a very familiar face and voice within the Cardano community. So guys, welcome.
Cheers, Paul. Cheers, Paul. Welcome, Rick. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me on, Paddy. Paul, greatly appreciate you guys having me come on over. It's been a good time.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's great you were able to come on. I'm sure lots of people here are familiar with yourself, but just for those that aren't, can you give the high level of kind of who you are in the community and where you are? You're going for number one.
Yeah, always going for number one. That's an ongoing everyday effort.
That's it.
So
and being good every day, isn't it?
Yeah. So I just started off as a Cardano podcaster, YouTuber, brought up a stake pool operator. I work with Drip Drops, a great team of folks over there, awesome folks. And I've always been backing the builders. So that's kind of been my thing since I got into Cardano is I was very intrigued by the level of effort, level of detail that the Cardano engineers, the IOG engineers put into the building of Cardano. And that really got my attention very early on. I was also involved with Ethereum. I had a little bit of Bitcoin, not too heavily involved in there. Wasn't a lot to do over there. A couple other types of coins, old proof of work, like Netcoin and stuff like that. That run on a laptop or something like that. Mine some of those coins, yes. And then Cardano came out, and I was like, "Wow, this is really cool." I kept reading up, following up on things, and just kind of dove all the way in, and there you go. And that's why I'm all in with Cardano. And I kind of like the Ergo ethos. So I'm dabbling in Ergo as well. And I'm finding a nice, very organic community over there with a lot of open source software. So I'm also giving a lot of love in the direction of Ergo as well. But my first and true love is Cardano, especially my girl, Ada Lovelace. So yeah, there you go. So
there's one tweet that I always remember from you, Rick, is your altcoin tweet that you throw out every now and again. I always got to laugh at that one. It's a sensitive topic, I believe.
Which one is that?
It's whenever you're the altcoin.
Altcoin. Ada is not an alt. Ada is not an alt. To call it. So I'll give you an example. Like for Bitcoin, for anyone who's a Bitcoin maxi, I'm no longer an ADA maxi. I'm ADA, Ergo, SHEN, Djed, IUSD. I'm all into the Cardano DeFi kind of spread around there a little bit. And for someone to call it an altcoin is like, I just go, what are you thinking? You know, we used to ride in horse and buggies, and the guy that makes the horse and buggies doesn't call the Ford Model T an alt carriage. Oh, it's an alt horse. No, I'm sorry. It's just the greatest innovation in technology in the industry, and you're going to call it an alt something just because it's not the original pet rock that you created. I'm sorry, but that's just not how it works.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to kind of squash the label of altcoin. So there's stuff that's low cap gems out there that might be considered an altcoin, but when you have when you're well into the millions of users, millions of holders or investors, and you have a completely built from scratch infrastructure like Cardano does. This isn't copy and paste. That is not an altcoin. I think the term actually originated from Bitcoin whenever it started to fork, which is a problem that Cardano has solved in general. It's not solved, but it's mitigated. And Bitcoin broke off into BSV, Bitcoin Satoshi's Vision, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, all these other forks. And that was where the term originally came from, was there's Bitcoin and then these altcoins that were forks of Bitcoin. And then it just kind of carried over onto Ethereum. I wouldn't call Ethereum an altcoin. I wouldn't call Ripple an altcoin. Ripple is a different technology than Ethereum, and Cardano is a different technology than both of those. And none of them are altcoins. Those are primaries. They're not copy and paste. They're not forks of another branch of code or something like that. So that's just my take. Sorry to ramble on, but
no, you're fine. Well, I can't bring up the screen share there if you want to just show that photo. I see my permissions are gone. But this one, this is my regular favorite, but it makes perfect sense. So I drive an alt car or alt horse Not that one, but I drive a different one. And I have a few alt phones on my landline, you know. So I should stick with the landline then, based on the logic of Bitcoin. And
yeah, I got to tell you, I make all my own memes. They're all homemade from scratch, but I do copy and paste some from like Darth Ada and Anthony Cardano. Like they'll put out some really popping memes, and I'll just snag theirs and recycle it and just keep that thing going. But I always like to give credit to the original authors. I had trouble expressing in words. I just put it into a picture and say, okay, here you go, guys.
It's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah, it explains it much easier than trying
Sorry for digressing, guys, but I just had to bring that up. I just remembered it.
It works, doesn't it? You explain it with the graphic. That's how I do it. That's how I think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I think actually, yeah, for anyone just coming in, please do give the video a like or share it out. Helps bring other people in. And any questions anyone has throughout the show, just ask them, and we'll go on to some certain topics, and then we'll come back and check questions as well. One person asking there, Nams, is asking about Cardano Live. Rick, will we see Cardano Live again?
Yeah, I'll do some more episodes, but I just paused from it last year. I was working on a couple of different projects, as well as with Drip Drops as project manager, and I was putting a lot of my time. I like to use some of my time now for personal time and work on some personal projects and stuff like that. Spend time with the family and the dogs. Yeah. And I said, okay, there's only so much I'm going to put on my plate, so I'm going to hold off on Cardano Live for a little while and focus on these other projects, and then I'll come back into podcasting. And when I do, it'll be raging. And a bear market's a great time to get to either start a podcast or build your audience of a podcast. So it's probably approaching that time again. Yeah, but nice. Thanks for the question, though.
Look forward to seeing them coming back as well. I always enjoyed them because your knowledge in the space, you're able to ask projects the important questions. But on that one, Cardano, how do you think we are going now versus where we're all aiming for Cardano to go? Where do you think we are now?
Okay, so we're in a pretty good spot, and what I'll have to do to describe what I mean by that is kind of roll it back in time to late 2021, early 2022, when Cardano builders, people who are building on top of Cardano, started deploying their products on Cardano. So, we had Sunday Swap, Minswap launched, Wing Riders launched. Muesli Swap actually came out the gate in late 2021, like out of nowhere, boom, right? So you got 4 really solid DEXs deployed on Cardano, and that was a great start. And then through 2022, we had various lending protocols. You got Lending Pond, OptimFi is up and running. Liqwid just came online earlier this week. That's one of the items you wanted to hit on here, so I won't touch on that now. And Indigo, and so many different protocols. We have both lending and borrowing protocols that behave kind of like a bank or a decentralized bank in some way. And then you have multiple decentralized exchanges. So you have all these different financial product systems that are built, right? All available on Cardano now, all the way up through to last week with the launch of Liqwid, SHEN, and Djed. So now what we have are tokens of significant value, or tokens that have a backed value that are, and they have a solid company backing it, not a team, not a project. This is a product built by a company. Mm-hmm. And that really strong foundation has really formed. It is there. That solid foundation is there. And now people are starting to get their feet wet. They're starting to dip their toes. That's where we're at today. They're saying, okay, how does this work? I'm not just using a meme coin or a coin of unknown value to put into a liquidity pool or to transfer into a yield farm. We're now using tokens and coins, native assets of known value or of some sort of established value. And now people are starting to dabble their toes in that. And we're starting to see TVL start to build up here. That's even in a deep in the bear market where we are today. Yep. And I think the timing is incredible. I think the timing is great because the price of ADA is down compared to last year.
Mm-hmm.
The technology has been battle tested in the wild because, you know, these were V1s last year when Sunday Swap, Muesli Swap, those were their V1 products. They're now on V2, V3 level products. Or not, I don't mean Plutus V2 products. I'm not talking about Plutus V2 from the Vassal hard fork. I'm talking about they've had time to analyze how their product performs in the wild with real humans interacting, and then refine their product and their web user interface. And what I'm seeing now is a lot of really good products out there. And that's where we're at today. And now it's a nice warm pool for people to dip their toes and really start trying to figure out, how does this stuff really work? And I'm pretty happy because we're going for number one.
Oh yeah.
Just like my shirt says.
Yeah, I think we're really starting to come into a good place now, kind of towards the tail end of the last bull market, when we got smart contracts first for Cardano. When DeFi really started to try and build at that stage, we seen there was lots of things missing, which a lot of them came in the Vassal hard fork, and there'll be continuously new things to be improved. I think the few months around now are going to be vital to Cardano in the long term when we look back, not just with the protocols that are launching, but also the developers that are coming in and building new ways for people to build on top of Cardano, that it's not just you have to know Haskell, you have to know Plutus. Like, you look around now with so many different options out there. Python, is it Icon or Acon or
Aiken? Yeah, Aiken.
Aiken. Yeah, that
building
that looks really good as well, and lots of different things like that. I think they're going to be really important for the future of Cardano and allow far more protocols to build and launch, as well as the improvements we're getting as well. Like, there's another hard fork happening next week that's more on interoperability, cross-chain. Do you want to touch on that, or will we keep going into DeFi, or what do you think?
Yeah, well, a few other things with the sidechain is you got the Shares Lake sidechain that deployed RUSD. RUSD is the product, and you have other things getting built out currently as is. So what I imagine moving on into the future, you're going to see more financial products that people use on an everyday basis in the regular world of finance and fiat. Things that look like savings accounts, certificates of deposits, IRAs, or in other words, individual retirement accounts, types of long-term savings and long-term investments. You're going to see more developers deploy those kind of products on top of Cardano, in addition to the fully featured DeFi set that we have available today. And then eventually that may include things like stocks. So currently you have like bonds at OptimFi, where they do, looks like a bond in a decentralized state or semi-decentralized state. But you'll have things that look more like stocks or real world asset-backed, company-backed, commodity-backed products, tokens, deploying on Cardano as well. And that's what I'm expecting to see in the next couple of years on Cardano. So as far as the DeFi is concerned, there's a couple of things we're going to hit on today.
Yeah.
Like Djed and SHEN, right?
Yeah, let me grab some of these up and we can go through them. Let me see.
Yeah, like, I know a lot of people, it's kind of an old saying, you're still early and stuff like that if you're in crypto now, but I think we really are early in terms of DeFi and what will be coming to Cardano over the next years, not just this year and the next few months, but over the next years. Lots of the different aspects you just mentioned there. Your screen, Paddy, will bring it up here.
Yeah. The one they always beat us with, everybody outside of Cardano always screams about TVL. And we touched on it before a few times, but it is important, and it is an interesting metric to keep an eye on, but it is growing. And like you said, Rick, during a bear market, you want to see this growing, and that's a good sign of health, strength, and it's a good sign of new things coming out. You can sort of take a grasp of when, over the past first 2 months of the year, first month, the excitement that was in Cardano and the releases. Liqwid and Djed are massive. There's TVL in there. Even more mobile has TVL in there, which I still don't think is on here yet. You know, it's around 8, 9, 10 million. Not quite 100% sure. That's even more. That's being added. And I always remember back, and I was talking to Paul about it the other day. We used to only have staking. What does Cardano do? Oh, it does the staking. It doesn't do anything else. You can send transactions. But now you're touching on it perfectly. We have all these things that are added, that are in there, they're running, they're operating, they're being expanded upon, and there's more coming. You know, we were going through a lot of lists of projects the other day, and just checking. There's so much more projects still building and still to be released. It's like a whole new ecosystem just starting now. You could probably say 2023 was the year that probably really started, but you were right. You know, Muesli and a few other guys came in quick off the mark and, you know, got the ball rolling.
Yeah, I'd say the foundations are in now, and even the basement is built, and now we'll start to see more and more building on top of that and learning from the protocols that launched early, and also taking advantage of the newer features that are coming out. And TVL, there's lots of people don't like it as a metric. I would say it is still a decent metric if you take it for what it is and understand that once protocols start building on top of each other, you've seen what Solana, a few devs done over on Solana, and they met up, was it 60 or 70% of the TVL at the all-time highs, and it was all the same funds at the base of it, only there was multiple different projects built on top of each other, and the TVL just kept counting multiple times, even though it was only the one. So it's still, even though people discount it, it's still a metric I like to see growing, and it shows people getting involved. Sometimes I think that Cardano staking is too good, that it makes it harder for DeFi protocols to actually encourage people to get involved in it. Because if you can safely stake on Cardano with the funds sitting in your own wallet, not locked, you can get your, we'll say roughly 3.6% right now, then it does take a lot to start encouraging people to get involved. And I think we'll see that over this year as people start to learn about it. But like I always say, if you're getting into DeFi, any of the protocols, whether they're new or older ones, test with small amounts. Make sure you do your research, because anytime ADA leaves your wallet to go into another protocol, that does bring risk. Even if it's only smart contract risk, there's still risk. So always do due diligence. Make sure you know, or you have a very good idea of what you're getting into.
What do you guys think about? Well, that's a good topic, Paul. What do you guys think is going to take to get those 70-something% of ADA that's staked to start getting it moving? You know, what's going to be? Is it going to be a slow educational process? You know, there's people out there who are new to crypto, or newish, and there's people here who've been here quite some time who are probably already doing all this stuff. Is it education?
I think it's a low, slow, gradual process combined with people's willingness to take a risk in order to earn higher rewards. That's just my take on it. Like, so I'll give you an example. I'm one of those guys. I don't care what TVL is. I just don't. I don't care what other people do with their money. And, you know, ADA staking is world class. It is the best compared to everything else. As far as crypto staking, it is absolutely the best one out there. And that makes it kind of easy to say, okay, this is what I got for staking, right? But then if you look at stuff, you know, I love to read Cardano Whale's thread. Well, he goes by Ada Whale in his name, right? The guy Ada Whale. And he writes some really great threads on how people can use these products and protocols. So what I personally do is I put aside a small bag, just like we've all learned a long time ago, do not risk more than you can afford to lose. So I put aside a bag of ADA and I say, okay, I'm going to play with this thing. And I go out there and play with it. Now, people got to understand is that Cardano is not indestructible or invincible. It is subject to either poorly written code, or it's subject to someone might purposefully write malicious code so you can get hacked. And in one example, when I was working with IBTC, it's not IBTC's fault, but, you know, I lost a little ADA in slippage because of the way I was trading, right? So you put yourself in that situation, and I knew I could have lost a little bit, and I lost a little more. And then a couple days later, I read about the sandwich attack whenever transactions get ordered in canonical order instead of first in, first out order, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And I thought, yeah, I might have lost a little here and there to a sandwich attack. And what happens is all these dexes are learning about this stuff. They're implementing newer and better versions, making it safer for you to take your risk, right? So they're trying to make it safer for you to take risk. And then you're going to get this kind of slow-boiled frog effect to where over time, as people warm up to it, I wouldn't encourage anyone to jump in more than they're willing to handle, right? Warm up to it, try it with small amounts and see what happens. And then you go, oh, that's interesting. I earned a little bit here. Maybe I can try a little bit more, but that's up to each person. But I think that's what's going to take, Paddy, is it takes some time for people to learn from it and then read threads like Cardano Where. I got one of his pulled up over here. He's got a really cool strategy for ADA lending on Liquid Finance, the IBTC stability protocol on Indigo, and then using Indigo Minswap for ADA. You make a liquidity pool with ADA IBTC, put it in a liquidity pool, and then yield farm it because then you're going to earn mint tokens. So what'll happen is you'll get mint tokens on top of whichever way your liquidity pools. You never know. Sometimes it goes good, sometimes it goes not so good. But you earn some mint tokens on top of that. And those tokens have a pretty established value now. Yeah. Again, none of this is the financial advice, but I'm only going to say that once. I don't give financial advice. Okay, I'm done. But sorry, did I answer the question? Oh, Nem said, is that for me, Paul?
No, I was just going to touch on this when around to me. I think that it's something that I was thinking of before I seen the comment. This is a good aspect of that as well. We don't need the 72% to move into TVL and into locked metrics, because with the likes of Indigo or even Liqwid as well, when the ADA is put into it, it's still staked back to the network as well. So the 73% metric doesn't have to go down. Hopefully that still stays in around that, and we can still see a lot of that ADA put into TVL or put into the protocols that are there and use what does launch. So like he touched on, I think education, people learning what it's about, and new types of protocols coming out as well. Like Cardano is looking at not just the traditional DeFi that we've seen on other chains and stuff like that as well. We're looking for that's what I think it's been classed by people on Cardano as real fi. I haven't kind of heard it in other chains before, but that's going to bring new opportunities as well and bringing loans into the real world and stuff like that. So I think things like that will definitely encourage people to get involved when they can see what, say, the likes of the loans are actually going to be used for as well. And Rocky is talking here about ADA Whale as well. And he's definitely someone, I mention him on the channel here a lot. If you're on Twitter, he's one of the must follows for Cardano. And from everything he puts out, he definitely has a good handle in traditional finance and brings that into Cardano and explains a lot of the terms there. And I have an open invitation for him to come on the channel anytime he wants with voice changers or masks or anything like that.
Come on like Army of Spies, the full kit. The glasses, the face mask, the hat, there's no problem.
But I also really respect what he does is that he has such a huge following and he just does it to put out quality information. That's all he does it for. He doesn't do it to benefit himself or anything like that. So it's great to have people like that and like Army of Spies as well that puts out great information in the community. See, Manny B Investing says that's the type of stuff he does on his channel as well. Slippage is getting better with Minswap. I would say slippage depends on the pair that you're doing. Always check the liquidity, especially we'll talk a bit about Djed now in a minute. And when you go to trade Djed or SHEN, I haven't checked actually in the last day or two, but I know in the first few days, if you tried to trade them on Minswap or Sunday Swap, then the slippage there was fairly big if you were trading any decent amounts. Wing Riders was the only one got the initial liquidity into it. I think Minswap might have it already, or if they don't, it is coming that they will have better liquidity there as well. But like anything, always check your slippage and what you set when you go to trade. Anyone new, slippage is basically how much less you're willing to accept for your trade. So if you're trading 100 ADA for $40 worth of Djed, then you can set your slippage that you're willing to accept back maybe $38 worth of Djed for your 100 ADA, But if it goes below that, don't execute the trade. So that's where you set your risk and everything in the settings on each day. Each DEX is individual, so you can check it there, and there's lots of videos around as well. I'm actually going to start a DeFi series, kind of starting at the very basics, what DeFi is, going through the different protocols, hopefully do a dedicated video for each of them and talk through all of it and some of the strategies that you can use. But obviously, there's always risk in them. So hopefully that will help people understand some of them.
That'll be perfect. That leads on. That's part of my educational question there, I guess. That Rick was saying, those videos will be important, Paul.
Yeah. That's like one example is I went to get some IBTC, and when I set up the order, I can't remember the slippage percent. It was high. It gave me fair warning. The slippage was 12%. So when I put in 1,000 ADA worth of ADA, 1,000 ADA for the IBTC, and then it came back after the slippage, I only had 800 ADA worth of IBTC. And then I was like, oh, crap. Yeah. So I lost 200 ADA on that trade. But let's see what happens. If I had done that when Bitcoin was only $15,000 and then sat on it until it was 23,000, I probably would have been okay. Yeah. Because that's part of the Indigo protocol and all that kind of cool stuff. But that's just an example of when you see that slippage percent start climbing up, just be alert. You're not going to get as much back as you think you're going to get. It's not bad. It just depends on what you're willing to do.
Oh, right. Let me move you on for a wee minute because we've got quite a few things to get through. So, Djed, first week. Before I go through this, what do you guys think? Rick, how do you think it's went?
Okay. I go with the numbers. So last I recall, Djed had about 1.8 million minted. I like to use Tap Tools and cexplorer/Djed. So if you go to cexplorer.io/DJED, that will give you the current summary status of Djed. I check that probably every morning. I'm like Djed and Shen, and I'm actually playing that game. I like playing games. I'm actually playing the Djed Shen game right now. I'm about 60-40 in. I'm about 60% Shen, 40% Djed. There it is, man. And this page I use right here, because it doesn't require VPN to get to this page. But if you go to djed.xyz, depends on what country you're from, you might not be able to get to it. So this gives you the current state. And you have, oh, look, we just broke through 2 million. So there's a circulating supply just broke through 2 million circulating Djed, 23 million circulating Shen. It's over collateralized to the point where you can mint up to 12.22 million Djed. So that means there's plenty of runway for the market. People want to convert to Djed to stabilize their value. They can do that. And I think the first week, it started off with a bang. We saw it shoot up very quickly the first couple of days, and it's starting to taper off. But what I'm noticing is I subscribe to the Tap Tools Telegram Djed bot, and I check that thing once in a while. And the initial mints, I would see like 5K mint Shen, 5K mint Shen, 5K mint Shen, then a 5K mint Djed. And now I'm starting to see people, they're starting to warm up to it. And I can go look at what that bot is saying right now. But I started seeing people minting 10K, 15K, and at one point got pretty big. It was a big mint. And that means it's coming into existence, right? Yep. It's not so much. So, oh shit, I just pulled it up. There was a mint this morning of 50,000 Djed, and that's when it broke 2 million.
It's feeding
30,000 Shen, 30,000 Djed. Yeah.
That bot is by Tap Tools, is that what you said?
Huh?
Is that bot by Tap Tools, is it?
Yeah, it's a Telegram bot by Tap Tools.
Okay.
They have it linked over on their Twitter. You hop in that Telegram bot and you can see Djed and Shen being minted and burned. And to Paddy's point, I'll get you a link to that bot. I'll drop that over in your Telegram right now. And but to Paddy's point, it launched great, and then it kind of stabled off to these smaller mints. And then now what it looks like is these could be, I don't know who's minting and burning, but it could be people with larger bags of ADA who are starting to think of the market. Say, okay, ADA's been 39 cents for like a week now. Do I think it's going to go up or I think it's going to go down? And if I think it's going to go down, I'm going to mint some Djed. If I think it's going to go up, they might mint some SHEN. Or if they're like me, I go, well, I'm kind of halfway in the middle, so I'm going to go out and get me a little bag of SHEN and a little bag of Djed, right? Yeah. And then see which way it goes.
Yeah, I think the markets definitely play a part in this as well. It's a good time for Djed and SHEN to launch in terms of launching now rather than when ADA was at its highs or even up over $1 or $2, due to hopefully at this point if we're not at the bottom, we're very close to it and the markets can start to rise. But as well as that, people are also looking at that they think the market might be near a bottom right now. So when you mint Djed, then you're basically selling your ADA for that US dollar price on that day. So I think there's some people would be a bit wary of doing that just yet as well if they feel the market is going to go up. That's where SHEN can be an option. But like anything, there is risk in there. But if you're bullish long-term on ADA, then SHEN is an option there. As long as you understand the levels, which we've talked about in videos of the 400%, 800% and all of that. But do your research on that. But that's one option. I think it will grow over time as well. And we're also going to have other stable coins coming in with Emergo, what they're doing with USDA. I think that one could end up being very popular as well, being a fiat-backed one.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. You can finish up, Paul. I'm going to change it slightly to just the future, but yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so there's some interesting characteristics to Djed and SHEN, and there's newer versions coming out later on in the future. But with the current version that we have, what I'm trying to figure out is, all right, so let's say you hold Djed today, ADA's 39 cents. So I'm holding Djed today at, 2.5 ADA per Djed. And then if the price of ADA goes down to 30 cents and you sell it, you're going to make back, 8 cents for every dollar you put in, or for every ADA you bought, from 39 cents to 30 cents. You're going to get more ADA back. So if you burn it, you'll get more ADA back, or you trade on the DEX, because you got to have a minimum amount. You got to have like 1,000 of it to burn. So you can trade on the DEX. So based on the burn mint cost, it's probably going to get reflected in the DEX within some short period of time. You'll see that reflected on the DEXs, where you can play with smaller amounts. And I find the most interesting things about Djed and SHEN. Okay, Djed is always redeemable. So if you're holding Djed, let's say you go out, buy 10 Djed off the DEX or whatever. So it's always redeemable, but you got to burn 1,000 to redeem it, which means it's probably going to trade on the DEX at roughly that same price, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever the trading price of ADA is. But then you have those 400% and 800% thresholds, where if the treasury there, what's it at? 588%. Yeah. So even if it drops down to 400%, you can still, below 400%, you can still redeem Djed. And there's a chart on the, I can't see the chart. I can't pull it up right now because it's on the Djed XYZ website. So if it drops below 400%, you can burn Djed. You can always burn Djed and get the ADA, no matter how low it goes, right? If ADA goes down to 10 cents, you burn the Djed and you get the ADA. But at 400%, you can no longer burn SHEN, and above 800%, you can no longer mint SHEN. So I'm curious to see what happens when you start hitting those extremes. If you hit the 400%, what happens to the price of SHEN when it's the only thing you can mint and you can't mint any more Djed? And what happens to the price of SHEN if it hits 800%? You can't mint the SHEN anymore, right? It cuts you off.
Yeah, I think that's
and I'm curious to find out what happens at the extremes. I don't know what happens, but I want to find out.
Yeah, there'll be some interesting degenerate plays can be made at them types of levels as well, in that when you get to 400% or below 400%, I would expect SHEN to be sold at a discount on the DEXs, because you will have panic and people panicking, trying to sell off SHEN in order to redeem it in case the market keeps going lower. So it could keep going under 400% by the price of ADA going down is the main way, or people minting. Well, actually, when it goes below, you can't mint more Djed. So it's mainly the price of ADA going down. But I would expect for people who are bullish longer term, there will be some good chances there when it does go below to actually pick up SHEN cheaper than the market price if you are confident that the market will be pushed back up again. And then when it goes above, you could always go and burn that at the contract then at that stage. I think that's the chart you were looking for, Rick, there with the 400 and 800.
Yeah, that's perfect. So yeah, on that left-hand column, I like how you can always burn Djed, right? Just be careful. You can't, be alert, be aware. You can't mint it if the reserve drops below 400%. And then SHEN has two thresholds. At the high end, you can no longer mint it above 800%. And on the low end, you can't burn it below 400%. So you're kind of sitting on it. Now, that did happen on Ergo, where SIG RSV, which behaves like SHEN, it has the same, very similar characteristics. And the reserve dropped down to 395%. And you cannot burn the SIG RSV until that smart contract goes back up above 400%. And so when it starts hitting those thresholds is when I'll keep a close eye on it, because I want to learn what happens. I want to find out what happens, but I don't want to get wrecked. I'm willing to get a little bit wrecked. I'm willing to take some risk for the benefit of Cardano.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to take on that risk, but I don't only so much.
Yeah. Well, benefit of Cardano was the reason why I done some SHEN. If it goes up, great. I'm likely just going to leave it there. It was more of a support buy because I want to see it as a success. I'd say a lot of people who are Cardano fans will be the same. But I'm like yourself. Now, I don't want to see the below 400 very often, but I'm looking forward to seeing the above 800 to see actually what happens. I have an idea in my head what might happen, and maybe SHEN price would probably go up, but I want to see how we get to that point and kind of theoretically go far higher than 800. Is that possible? I want to see these things play out just for entertainment. It's a lot of money of entertainment, but it's entertainment still.
Yeah, I think the only way it could go above 800% is, let's say people mint it until it hits 800%. And then people start burning Djed.
Yeah.
And so if it's at 800%,
oh yeah,
and then someone burns Djed, because you can always burn Djed, right? Then it's going to go to 801, 802, 810, 820, 840. It's going to keep going up. If people keep burning their Djed, then that reserve percent will keep going up, even though you can. Did I get that right? If I screwed it up, let me know. I think I got that.
No, I think you're right.
No, that's right. The only other way then is if the price of ADA keeps going up as well, because if the price of ADA goes up, it means the reserve is worth more. So it takes less ADA to cover all of the Djed that's in circulation. So they'd be the two ways that the reserve could keep going up.
So at about $3 high last year. I've lost the year before, was it? It would be
2021.
3,000% basically at the minute, if that logic implies. Which would be massive. But I can sort of understand that now. So if and when eventually we leave this bear market, SHEN ratio percentage should, as price increases, and I'll say it once, like Rick says, it's not financial advice, that ratio should increase. But let's see. I don't think many people will burn. I think a lot of people will probably use DEXs. And they can sort of do smaller amounts if needed. And it's probably more convenient for people now. What do you think?
Yeah, with the current fee structure as well, it's not really good to burn at the contract or even mint the smaller amounts as well. So they have said that once we're into launch and everything looks to be running smooth, they're going to relook at the minimums that are there as well. So the minimums plus the fees are things that will stop people minting and burning. Like if you go to burn, I don't know, is it 1,000 Djed is the minimum right now? It's not going to be worth it because you pay the 100 ADA fee to Coty, and then you also pay the 1.5%. So what you're getting back isn't worth it. So it's always going to be better to sell that on a DEX. You'll get a far better rate doing something like that. Or even if when we have other stable coins there as well, what you'll see is the stable swaps will become a lot more popular as well. So if you can sell your Djed, sell your whatever amount of Djed into another stable coin, maybe USDA, maybe IUSD, or maybe some other ones as well. I know Multichain are building a bridge that will bring in some stable coins from other ecosystems, and there's others building natively on Cardano as well. So over time, there'll be lots of different options, and even DeFi plays within them with farming in around pairs like that, because you're going to have very slow or very low slippage in them kind of pairs. So if you can get farms on them, then they're a lot more safer, or a lot more, they're not risk free, but they're a lot lower risk if you can get into things like that. So there'll be lots of things like that coming as well that will encourage more people to get involved in the stablecoin ecosystem as well.
You know what I need to try? So Wing Riders has a Djed IUSD pair, which is pretty interesting. I'm thinking, okay, what's that going to do? So I need to try it out. I haven't tried that one out yet. Mm-hmm. And so you have two stable coins that want to be worth $1.
Yeah.
And you pair them. So it's like, okay, so my base value is always going to be $1, or it should be, unless one of them has a malfunction. If they start trading back and forth, let's say I have I start off with 50 IUSD and 150 SHEN or Djed, and at the end of the day, I got 100 USD and 100 Djed. Okay, I still have $200.
Yep.
But you earned Wing Rider tokens. And now you can take your Wing Rider tokens and flip those into another liquidity pool somewhere else, right? And you can start, then you can start getting your feet wet and really getting the hang of how this works. And I've seen some big wallets in some of these liquidity pools too, or at least some big chunks anyway, big liquidity pools. And it's like, wow, people are really digging in. I'm pretty happy about that. Now, I do have two questions that I need to ask Cody, like for, say, Shahaf Bargeffen, about SHEN. And we should be having a Twitter space with them next week. So you guys, jump in there. Once we get to Twitter space, I'll work something out with his team, and I'll ask him those questions. But one question is, how is the minimum price of SHEN determined? Because right now it's 1.1 ADA. So what's going to happen is, as long as ADA is ranging around 38 to 40 cents, then the SHEN ratio is going to always stay at 1.1. And because there's a trillion of them mintable, right, then there's no way that price is ever going to change. So the question would be, how is that 1.1 ADA per SHEN established at the mint price? And the other question is, when it's burned, is it burned forever? Like, is it obliterated from the universe? Or does it just go back into a bucket where it can then be reminted, which is fine? Either one is fine. I don't care either way. I don't have a preference. I'm just curious. I just want to know how. Yeah. So we'll see if we get some answers to those questions, because I think that will help people think about what do I want to do with this thing? Like, is it technically, is it an infinite supply, or is that supply eventually going to run out because there's only so much? And so those are the questions that people are probably going to want to know more about. Like IUSD has a limit. It's only worth so much in IUSD until all 45 billion ADA have been stuffed into IUSD. You got no more ADA left. Okay. There's a limit. It actually has a mathematical limit there somewhere. Then the price of ADA changes, then the amount of IUSD you can have changes. But with SHEN, I'm not sure how that works. So I'm a little bit curious about that.
They talked about 1 ADA being the minimum price for SHEN, but I'm not sure how that works out if the market starts to fall or if the reserves aren't there, because the mint price for SHEN, from my understanding, it works out at that you look at what's in the reserves. So you take out of the reserves how much you need to cover the amount of Djed that's in circulation currently. So that ADA is set aside. The rest of the ADA then is to back up SHEN. So however much SHEN or however much ADA is there to back up the number of SHEN in circulation, that's how you find out what each SHEN is worth using that. So it's taking out what needs to cover Djed, and then the rest is left for SHEN. But
okay, that makes sense because there's a rule in there. It was on that home page of the page you were just looking at. There's a rule in there that one SHEN. No, the only thing on the homepage is the thing on the homepage is the ratio.
Yeah.
One SHEN is always worth one ADA. I read that somewhere. I think it's on the fact page.
It was a minimal. I think there was a minimal.
I don't know how the math works out on that though. I did read that as well, and that got me thinking. I'm not sure how that works out. Like, there's a lot of factors in play there. How much Djed comes into circulation, that will impact it. If there's a lot of Djed in circulation and the price of ADA starts to drop, you need more of the ADA that's in the reserves to back up the Djed that's in circulation. So I think it can go below 1 ADA, but they're definitely something to ask Shahaf on.
Yeah, I think it can go below 1 ADA if I don't know when. God, I figured it out before, but anyway.
But let me ask you both this then, just to try and wrap up on Djed a bit. It's been good. Positive. It's been good. You're happy with it?
It's been ranging sideways, so it's really they're both still the same thing they were last week. I picked up some bags last week, and they haven't changed really. Okay. I'm waiting for some volatility to kick in and watch and see what happens with a big dip in ADA, a big rise in ADA.
Yep. How
do the people respond? How does the smart contract respond? That's what I'm really curious to see. It's also kind of weird that Djed's price on CoinGecko is usually about $1, $2, $3, and Djed's price on CoinMarketCap was typically $1 plus or minus a tenth of a penny, but it still pops up to 101 and occasionally pops down to 98 cents.
Yeah, I think some of that is because they're only tracking Minswap and Bitrue right now, which don't have much liquidity. So if someone puts in a trade for much, then it's very easy to push the price of Djed either above $1 or down below $1. But it generally comes back in around that $1 fairly quick. Yeah, you can see $1.02 at the minute. And if you look under markets, it's just at the top there. Yeah. So you're on overview. So if you look at markets, then there, Paddy. So see where green, yeah. So you can see it's only tracking Bitrue and Minswap right now. So the amount of liquidity on them isn't much. So any big orders can push that, but it generally will come back then.
That would be
and it needs time to spread and propagate through. The more people that hold it, the more dexes that hold it, and the more centralized exchanges that have these different tokens. I think you'll see that chart stabilize. It's actually not too unstable right now. It only ranges between 42.5 cents and 43.5 cents. Djed is ranging between 98 cents and $1.04. That's not bad, right?
Yeah.
For early on. Now, if it's doing that a year from now, there's a problem, right? But a lot of stable coins do that. Well, different types of stable coins, but they'll start off very unstable until they get distributed. And as they distribute and get into more people's hands and out there, it tends to stabilize, but not always. Like there's always Luna that we're still paying for that politically and socially for what the freaking Luna fiasco caused.
I know.
There's always the incentive. If you can buy a stable coin below $1 outside the Luna case or kind of extreme circumstances, generally, if you can buy a stable coin below $1, then with Djed, if you have enough of it, you can burn it at the contract, or people are incentivized to bring it back to $1 because of that there is a backing on it, that you can exchange that for something else for $1 worth of Djed. So that should always bring it back to its amount. Rocky said here, sounds like you divide the number of ADA by the number of Djed. That will be to work out the reserve. So what the reserve ratio is the amount of ADA in the reserve divided by the number of Djed in circulation. He also says about USDA be a large catalyst in the States since it's easier to access in the States. I definitely think that could be. And from talking to Vineet at the summit last year, and the way they're talking about the different audits and stuff like that, and how much transparency they're hoping to bring on the fiat that's sitting in the bank to back it up, then I think it definitely could be a good contender there, and people will feel more comfortable, at least when they come in first. They'll feel far more comfortable getting into something like that when they know that there is fiat sitting there to back it up.
Yep.
There was some questions there about Liqwid. I'm not ignoring them and everything that's going on with Liqwid, but Liqwid's on our topics here that we will get to, and then I'll go back through the comments for Liqwid then as well.
Just going to finish on Djed with multi-wallet support. I think is going to be important. So many people messaging me about NAMI only. You know, and you can't import your wallets into your wallet into any wallet UI. And that's been the narrative I've told everybody all week. The addition delegation to the website is going to be cool. It's going to be interesting to see how that's going and progressing. And I like to see the potential rewards and stuff. So I'm hoping as part of that. I think
that's the most important part. SHEN holders can hold the SHEN in any wallet and they'll get ADA rewards.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
Initially, it came out that if you put it as liquidity on a DEX, you wouldn't get the rewards, but I know they are working on solutions, and maybe they have them by now that you will get it for providing liquidity. So potentially that could be part of not much liquidity on DEXs as well, that people are holding back the SHEN because they don't want to lose liquidity. But that would definitely be something that hopefully they do work out or have worked it out already to incentivize people to provide liquidity. Like one pair, I'd like to start providing, not financial advice, liquidity to an ADA SHEN pair, because in that case, you shouldn't have too much volatility between the price of ADA and SHEN. Like if you look at it from it launched, it's kind of been 109 to 111 is the trading range. So if you can get farming rewards and pool fees and stuff on top of that, then that's, again, I would put that as one of the lower risk DeFi or farming opportunities there.
I think that is a real incentive that people will start to learn or understand better, is to get the ADA rewards from these various protocols, including SHEN and others, and getting the farming tokens, the Wing Rider or the Sunday tokens, whatever type of yield farming that you're doing. That's definitely a good thing. Dang, there was something on. Oh, so the current solution that I read for people who have their SHEN on a DEX is the DEX is going to get the ADA rewards. Then it's up to the DEX to figure out what to do with those rewards. If they give them to the users or the farmers or whatever it is that they do. That's the current status that I read anyway. So that's the last thing I'll say about that. I know you guys want to get onto Liqwid, and we had a bunch of other stuff we're talking about.
No, that's grand, Nick. But that we'll keep an eye out for that, and you can ask maybe on the Twitter space. Maybe ask what's going to be happening with that, and we'll see what Jahaf has to say.
Yeah, hit me up with that space. I don't have a time yet, but once I get a time with his folks, then I'll let you guys know, and we can have a nice, big, giant, warm, fuzzy Twitter space and get all the cool stuff. They're great folks. I've met a couple of the different folks from Cody.
Yeah.
Shahaf, awesome dude. He'll tell you anything you need to know. He does his own podcast as well. He just goes out there and broadcasts. Good stuff.
I think the last on that will be, and this is what I want to see, more partnerships. And so let's see what comes out on that. Hopefully big things get announced.
Patrick told me Endmaker's going to take Djed.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, I think they already accepted actually for some of the sales on NFTs, which is great to see already.
Yeah. Yep. And those are the types of things. More adoption. Let's get it out there. Let's get the place flooded with it. Right. Where are we going now? Let me see. Let me just stop this for a second. Oh.
See Pete from Learn Cardano there.
Hey, Pete.
Some week, Pete. We might have to get you on to Cardano Crack as well. I'm not sure what time this works out at in Australia, but we could look at something some week if you're up for it too.
He's like 16 hours ahead of me. It's about, what is it? 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. in Australia right now. 7 a.m. maybe.
So
depending on where in
5
Australia
a.m. when we started.
Yeah. Liquid's on pause right now. Liquid protocol's paused for the moment.
Yeah, there's a few questions about that and the multisig and different things like that that were in the comments there, and I didn't want to throw them in the middle of Djed, but we will touch on them now.
No, let's go. Well, that's the topic. Right, let me bring it up. So let me just go to here and get up.
I think I
forgot to hit the comments tab on StreamYard. I didn't see the comments.
Oh yeah, comments there.
I hit the comments tab. Now I can read everything.
9 a.m. in Melbourne. I actually have a sister living in Melbourne. Cheers.
And on Pete's side of the continent, it's the butt crack of dawn. I hope Dawn has a nice butt crack. Maybe she washed last night. Have fun, Pete.
I've seen Pete post some pictures of early morning runs last year, and it looked like a nice spot where he is anyway.
Yeah, I saw his pictures of the parks, where he grew up, the parks surrounding the city.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, they stopped the protocol. So, you have it here, Paddy?
Ready to rock. So, I guess everybody's seen it. And if you haven't seen it, that Liqwid had to temporarily pause and basically stop what's going on. I think the surprise was that they stopped. And I thought there was also a lot of people questioning that they had the ability to stop. But and we can go into that. We can get your guys' opinion. So they had the ability to sort of freeze everything. I don't know why, what the actual problem was. It just said security issue. I'm hoping there'll be more information here, or they'll release info on it. A fix has been done, so obviously something. I'm hoping nothing's been lost. I'm hoping everything's okay. So far, there hasn't been any news on anything like that. A fix has been put in, and it's been audited. And they're going to push it onto the mainnet. That's as much as I know. The details on it are, they're open. They're glad they told everybody. So, and it's good there is a fix. I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen in the future with that. And Liqwid in general, it's been good and bad. It's been a crazy week for the project. There's been a lot of people saying bad things. There's a lot of people happy. It's a pressurizing scenario releasing the project. So I like to give a bit of bandwidth on that.
Can I address that for a moment?
Yeah.
Okay. I think this is a very important subject to touch on. All right. When these builders, when they launch the first iteration of their product, they're looking for feedback, right? The testnet is a very stable environment because you don't have 1.2 million people conducting 65,000 transactions per day on the testnet. So the testnet is very stable, and it's a great place for making sure your code is working. Then they deploy it on mainnet, and that's when you really find out. So they do a lot of testing on testnet. These builders have been testing their butts off. But there's only so much you can do. It's hard to simulate 1.2 million people doing 65,000 transactions per day on mainnet, and what's all the degenerate things that they're going to do and what the hackers are going to do, because they don't want to attack a testnet. They might use a testnet to figure out how to hack something, right? Mm-hmm. Find a security issue. Then they deploy it on mainnet. So what I would like to encourage our Cardano peeps, my Cardano peeps out there, when they deploy a V1 product, give them some clear, concise feedback. But when you do it, try not to be a Cardano Karen where you're just screaming at them saying, can I speak to the manager? You guys screwed this all up, right? Because I've seen a lot of that kind of stuff happen, like when SundaeSwap launched. Okay, that was V1. That was V1. Yeah. And they asked for feedback. They said, hey, we're launching this. And some people, when you give feedback, try to be detailed. Tell them clearly, I was using this wallet. This is what I did. This is the error message I got. And do it with some tact and diplomacy, because these project builders, they want to make good products for you. They really do. And the same thing with Liqwid, right? This was Liqwid V1. Now, SundaeSwap, as time went on, it got better and better. MuesliSwap, as time went on, it got better and better and better, right? Oh, yeah. That first MuesliSwap, that was just V1. MuesliSwap's on like V3, and now it's super smooth. Same thing with Djed and SHEN. That's V1. That's V1. There's already plans. It's right there on the website. V2, V3. They got more coming. Same thing with Liqwid. Liqwid launched last week. That's V1. Give them some feedback. Hey, they found a security issue. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody's perfect. And it appears they caught it before. I haven't heard of any catastrophic. I haven't heard Adam Dean say that anything catastrophic has happened yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
No catastrophic yet.
And even with Min, there was a little bit of sandwich attacking going on there. They figured it out. Now they're on Minswap V3, V4, and super smooth. It's slowly getting safer for people. But make sure you give them good feedback with tact and diplomacy, and don't go all Cardano Karen on them, ripping their faces off just because you don't like their personality or they said something mean on Twitter. They're trying to get that feedback, and they need that. So that's just my little piece on that. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to get on the
you're good. You're good. And Rick, you would understand, you have drip drops. The pressures of a go live. I come from software engineering background, and the pressures of go live and releasing and getting things out there, it's stressful. It gives you gray hairs, and attacking someone. And I know people are saying DC has been a bit confrontational coming back, but try and imagine the pressure. I know it isn't warranted sometimes to be so aggressive coming back, but think about the scenario.
You know who DC reminds me of? He kind of reminds me of Charles Hoskinson in 2018, 2019, when everybody was going after Charles. Yeah. He would lash back. People who have a driven personality, they want to build, they want to build, they want to build. Right. And then you start kicking them in the shin while they're trying to build. Then they might get a little feisty with you. That's they're humans. But and maybe there's some teams have good community managers out there that can take a lot of that pressure off the primary builders. Help them out a little bit.
Yeah. Well, maybe go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
No, go on, Paul.
No, I was gonna try and so we talk about the bad that's been going on and move on to the little bit of positive Liqwid news. I know
the good stuff.
Yeah. There's the
just on this comment here as well. It said multisig attack. And was it same as what happened Cardano nodes? As far as I read from the messages, it wasn't anything to do with a multisig attack. They used a multisig wallet or transaction to pause the protocol. So we're still waiting on details on the multisig. There was something mentioned in an article from the beginning of January about the launch checklist, and there would be a multisig, but I would like to see a post-mortem on all of this and talk a bit more about the multisig and who's in it and how many signatures and stuff like that. I think that will be good as well for learning for other protocols as well to see what works or what doesn't. And hopefully once whatever this is patched, then they can share it with other builders that are out there as well, trying to build something else to make sure that they don't come across it. And from everything I've seen as well, I haven't seen anyone talking about funds being drained or anything like that. And there's enough of people now, I think, in the community that tracks things like that would have noticed if funds were leaving the pools that it's staked to or anything like that. Yep. On the launch, I agree with what you're both saying about you have to give teams the benefit of the doubt and everything like that. And you have to have respect when you're going back. I think Liqwid probably could have benefited from having the public testnet for at least a week. I think they only had maybe 1 or 2 days on public testnet. I don't think that's long enough for anyone to get full feedback from the community or let them really come in and test. Like, I think we've built a good community here that there are lots of people that will go in and test when something's on public testnet. So I would say for any other protocols looking at this, just give people a week or so to make sure they can come in and give valid feedback. And that's definitely a good time to get a lot of the feedback that's there. But like Rick mentioned, that when something goes on to mainnet, it's a whole different story. The way that people are trying to use it and trying to interact with it, and the number of people will definitely throw up different issues. So I think both sides can learn. And you talked about DC as well, and kind of some of the ways that he's coming back. I think that's where having a community, someone on the social media side, in between the builders and the community as well, and kind of keeping diplomatic relations fairly good. There's other stuff there. Some people commented on it about the tokens and things like that, about being sold, maybe not sold. I'm personally not going to get into that here because we don't have the full details on it yet. If anyone else wants to comment on it, they can. But I'm personally waiting for all of the deep dives to come out before I make comments and stuff like that. I want to see the hard facts on all of it first.
Yeah, I would like to comment on the multisig thing, though.
Yep.
I don't know where it came from, but I'm assuming that there was a best practice determined and said, hey, if you're launching a new product, maybe, the first version 1, version 2, version 3, have a safety net, right? Have something like multisig where you can turn it off or hit the pause button, fix it, swap the engine out, and get it running again. And that was a really good question from Enoch Sosh. I remember Enoch. He's been around for a long time. I remember seeing Enoch on other ones. So they probably figured it out and said, hey, you know what? Just in case there's a major malfunction, let's have a safety switch. And I'll give you an example. When Cardano first launched on mainnet, after the ITN and the Shelley testnet, the initial versions, you remember we had the D parameter, and D equals 98, 96, 94. Mm-hmm. And then it slowly dialed
down.
Yeah, and that was taking the train. And that D parameter was a safety catch in case the network went completely whack.
Yep.
You can instantly switch the D parameter back to 1, and only the federated nodes make the block. So it was a safety catch for like the first year. Now the D parameter is completely gone. It doesn't even exist. You can't even turn it back on if you wanted to. And so it was a safety parachute for the first year of Cardano's Shelley existence. In case I'm having, maybe that's a good idea to have a multi-sig on V1, V2, V3, the earliest versions of your protocol. Then once it's battle tested, highly hack resistant, then say, okay, let's take the multi-sig out and just turn it loose. And, it's just out there in the wild completely. Once it's been battle tested, that it can survive in the wild without, weird things happening or strange hacks occurring, because hacks can occur.
I'm all for it. I think it's great. I don't want to show the comments, but there is people who have been not nice about it. And for me, think about the scenario if they didn't have it. What would they do then? What would be the solution? It's broken. The system's fully broken.
So the solution would be you'd have to tell everybody, okay, everybody, we made a new contract, so everybody go take your money out of that one and go stick your money in the other one. And if you don't hear about it for a week or two, then who knows what happens.
It's staying there.
Yeah. I think the multi-sig is definitely useful. I think set it transparently, and hopefully they come out with a full article on it to say who are the members, who can actually vote, how many signatures is needed, and make sure there's a good balance of people there as well, because we've seen in the past with multi-sigs and things like that as well on other chains, other ecosystems, where they haven't always been the full safety net, that the keys can get hacked from different individuals. So I'd like to see that's me just wanting to know more and more details. Like, I'd like to see all of the details on that, and hopefully again others can learn from it, and at some point that it can be disbanded, so it doesn't keep that risk there of people being hacked. But I suppose as long as there's enough of key holders have to sign, then that does bring the risk down a bit as well. And Manny just said here about the issue here is speculating instead of them being transparent, and they get upset when you come with our own conclusions. I agree on that side as well, and that after all of this, hopefully we do get information out that just puts to bed all of even if there is something that happened that shouldn't have happened, that put it out there, put it publicly, give everyone the information, and then let people decide if they want to be there to be a part of the protocol building and moving forward, and let people pick their sides then, rather than arguing over and back on Twitter and kind of going off in complete different tangents. So we'll see in the next few weeks. The important part is that no funds are gone in this. We do have a lending and borrowing protocol in terms of pooled liquidity on Cardano. We have had AA to finance peer-to-peer up to this. So it is a good step forward for Cardano to have a lending and borrowing protocol like this. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to seeing it grow, seeing more assets being added into it, because that's when something like this really becomes useful, and there's lots of different opportunities within it then when you get more protocols. And I think Djed is the first one up on the vote there as well.
Yeah, well, that proposal, will I bring it up, Paul?
You could, yeah.
Yeah. So this is the one you're mentioning?
Yeah. So at the minute sorry, I'm not sure how. Can you zoom in on your screen a bit there as well, Paddy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better. So at the minute, we only have ADA on the system. So you have ADA, you can provide ADA as liquidity, and you can also borrow ADA on the other side. So the protocol, I think, doesn't make full sense to people right now as well with just ADA in it. But this was just what they launched to have out there on day one, and governance is supposed to vote in the other pairs. So once we get Djed in there, and other assets as well, that's when you start to get a lot more opportunities. So you could provide ADA as liquidity, and then you can borrow Djed on the other side. So there'll be things to explore there in terms of tax and everything, which we won't get into, but you're technically not selling your ADA on one side. You're just providing it as liquidity, and then you're using that collateral to take out a loan. So you look at what a lot of the rich around the world will do is they will use the assets that they own, and they will borrow against that to buy more assets and do things with that, rather than actually selling their assets and incurring capital gains and different things. Obviously, everybody needs to look into it because every country is different. But they're the types of things you can do on a base level, is use your assets. You still earn your staking rewards on one side. You will be paying interest for borrowing on the other side. But there's lots of things you can start to get into there as well when this happens. So that's what I'm really looking forward to kicking off here when that happens.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then I suppose with my Djed, I don't do anything with it at the minute. I can loan it out.
Yeah. And like with Liqwid, depending on what your country and your taxes, you could say, hey, rather than sell my ADA, I'm going to borrow this to pay my taxes. You could borrow the Djed to pay your taxes, or the USDA, or for something like that, depending on where you live and the timing. And then say, okay, when I want it back, I'm going to pay that back because I think the price of ADA is going to go up, so I don't want to lose my ADA, or the price of ADA is too low for me to sell it for taxes. So I'm just going to get my revenues from somewhere else. I'm going to borrow Djed from Liqwid and use that to pay my taxes because I don't want to sell ADA right now. I think, it's only 39 cents. I think it might go up to 44 cents or something like that. And so people have different strategies. These lending protocols give them the ability to lend or borrow. Lend and get a high percent. Last I checked the lend percent, it was at like 4.6. When I used Liqwid, I went through it. I used, did I use Flint or NAMI? I can't remember which one. Oh, NAMI. And I folded it twice. The only problem was the QADA didn't show up in my wallet. I couldn't see it. I just got a little bar, a little flashing bar. And I think that's because the Cardano Foundation has not enabled the token yet in the token registry.
Yeah.
Okay. But then I folded it twice. So I loaned it in, borrowed it out the other end. I put 1,000 in and got 750 right on one side. Then on a borrow, I took out 750 ADA. Then out of that 750 ADA, I loaned in 650 ADA back on the supply side, right? Then after that went through, I went to pull out 548 on the other end. So I was folding it. And at that point, the Liqwid protocol said, nope.
So you went balance was only 12 and you killed the protocol.
No. It doesn't kill the protocol. I thought it might have been designed to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But it said, okay, if you folded it twice, and the QADA was, I think it was in my wallet. I just couldn't see it because it wasn't enabled in the registry yet. I don't know.
Okay.
But I think. And the good part of the story is I earned a little bit here, I earned a little bit there, and when I backed it all out, after a couple hours, I earned 0.26 ADA. I didn't have any loss.
Profit.
I actually earned 0.26 ADA through the whole thing. I thought I was going to get wrecked. I'm like, I'm killing myself here. I'm going down the rabbit hole. I'm about to get wrecked. But I'm going to do it anyway.
You're making profit, Rick. Making profit. It's all adds up.
It does. It adds up. It adds up.
And they're
So
the type of
whenever
things I
V2
can't wait
comes out,
to
I'll go in
dive
there
into.
and I'll figure it out.
Yeah, them kind of things. There's so many opportunities you can do. Like if you can essentially short different tokens through something like this as well. If I put up my ADA as collateral, I take a loan out in, we'll say, token X, because I think the token price is going to drop. So I take my loan out in that token. I then sell it off for ADA or for Djed or whatever I want. I wait for the market to drop. So if the market does drop like I was hoping or expecting, I can then come back in and buy back the amount of tokens I need to pay back my loan. I pay back my loan and I keep the profit. So there's lots of different angles, or even if you, like you done, Rick, there, folding it back in. So I sell token X for ADA. I then put that back in. I can take another loan out and I can keep putting a bit of sell pressure on. Depends on the volume that you have. But they're the type of things that I want to explore myself first, and then hopefully put out in some of that DeFi series that I want to put together too.
Can you imagine if you could borrow SHEN, supply ADA, and now you're getting that 4.6%, at least it was last weekend when I was doing it, from Liqwid. Supply ADA to Liqwid, then borrow SHEN out of it, put the SHEN in your wallet, and earn the SHEN staking rewards.
Yeah.
And now, so you got 4.3% plus maybe 4%, 3.8%. And now, would that work? That would
just
be great.
thinking, I think when you actually borrow out, you're using the Q ADA out of your wallet. So you're putting that back in as collateral. So you won't earn the staking reward. So what you're earning on the left side of the protocol for providing, you won't earn that on whatever collateral you use then, because you're using that within the system, I think. Now that's something I need to dive into, test out, and figure out then how it's all working.
What you need to do.
So we can't create a perpetual money machine.
Yeah,
just a money printer.
Give all these scenarios to Paul, and Paul, I expect this video next week. All of Rick's ideas of the circle of money, and we'll see if they all work.
I'll just figure out how to print money and tell you. Is it?
Probably a good way to get wrecked.
Yeah.
You never know.
Hey, one of the guys in chat, 56 Hope Road, said the Q8 is fixed now. So I guess it's in the registry and you can read it now. It'll show up in your wallet.
Awesome.
Nice. And there's lots of people talking about Twitter being down at the minute. Some people saying Twitter is down and some saying it's up. And an interesting comment as well from Enoch. Did Elon put Twitter over on Solana?
Running on Solana.
Did we
want to go into Solana will be fine. They're just on V3.
Yeah.
Oh, Daniel asked me, Rick, did you already use the Indigo protocol? Not for a CDP. I'm going to make a CDP. I've been reading Ada Whale's Twitter threads on the best way to make a CDP. But what I'm going to make is when I'm waiting for the price of Bitcoin to come down a little bit. I think that's just me, my opinion. It's going to come back down to maybe 16 to 18K. And then I'll make a CDP on IBTC and sit on it. I might not have to wait. I might be able to just start it now. And then when IBTC goes back down to some lower number, I'll snatch it up low and then flip it high.
Yeah, and see, Indigo actually launched just before this. They launched their aggregator as well for the iAssets on their own site. They now have to swap assets. So instead of having to go over to the DEX and try and find the best one yourself, then you can use the aggregator that they've built in, which is a nice feature to have. It makes things easier on the protocol as well.
Awesome.
So it's on the Indigo website. And when you click it, it'll just reach out to like the Sunday protocol, or it'll reach out to the other protocols and swap it for you.
It looks like that. I think it only came out not long before we went live here. So I just brought it up, but I didn't get to test anything on it yet. But it looks like it goes to all the DEXs, Min, Muesli, Sunday Swap, and Wing Riders. So
let me see.
Nice. Looking at it right now.
Bring it up here for a minute. So swap tokens. This is the one you mentioned, Paul. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, dude, look at this. This is beautiful. I'm about to start crying. I'm gonna cry. Look at that. Look at this. When you see these people out there screaming about Cardano user interface not good, I'm sorry, pal. That's just not my experience. My experience is look at tap tools, look at Muesli Swap, look at Min, look at these user interfaces are really good. Now, when the chain is under heavy load, do you have to wait? Yes, because it's not the UI, it's not the Indigo protocol, it's not the Sunday Swap DEX. It's the chain is under heavy load. You have to wait, right? But this is incredible. I love it. Thanks for pulling that up.
Yeah, that's sweet.
I'm going to play with it as soon as we're done.
I really like that. And it's a good idea, isn't it? It's just a good idea.
Yeah. You can get your swaps right there and then put it into your CDP. Or has anyone used the you can stake the LP tokens too.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Look, Indigo have done a great job in what they've built, and basically all bootstrapped by the team as well. And what they've done is they're leading the way as well and showing what's possible. I think they were the first that when you provide your collateral, the ADA is still staked to wherever your wallet is staked. So the staking key is still registered to you. So you're still earning the staking rewards even when you put your ADA into it. So to me, it's one of the massive advantages on Cardano staking and stuff like that as well. And they were the first ones to implement it, as far as I know.
Okay, this is cool. So there's a little more liquidity now, so I'll start playing with it again, which is kind of a chicken and an egg thing. If you play with it, it will have liquidity. But if you don't play with it and you wait, then it might not have liquidity because everybody else is also waiting for somebody else to get killed before they start playing with it. But there's now, it looks like there's well over 1 million. Hold on, I'm trying to read it. Oh, pooled IBTC. So there's 5 IBTC pooled on Minswap. That's pooled against 317,000 ADA. Yeah. So now when I go and make a trade, I might not hit that high slippage. I might get what I'm looking for. So I think I'm going to give that a try again.
Yeah.
I'm glad you pulled that up.
Yeah. Just to clarify 2 comments. I was reading there, Javir's comment would be back for Liqwid about when I presume this is back for Liqwid, when you borrow, you stop earning on the supply, on what you've supplied. And then the other one there by Alex was about if you deposit tokens and mint assets. So this will be for Indigo. So when you mint assets with Indigo, you're still earning as well, even using your ADA as collateral, which is a really nice feature to have. And I think there'll be opportunities across both platforms as well to play them against each other as well, in terms of what you can do with the assets that you mint on both of them and different strategies you can use there.
Awesome. And more.
And, if someone's new to crypto, I would not throw them into a DEX or a liquidity pool straight out the gate. Let them get warmed up to crypto first, because this is hard for me sometimes. It's hard. But I'm starting to understand it better. I'm still learning.
Yeah, definitely. I would say people new don't jump into liquidity pools on AMMs when you come in first, because of impermanent loss and different risks that are there. And sometimes people come in and they jump in early and then they get hit with impermanent loss. If they get into a volatile pair, it could be fairly substantial. And then they're like, it's all a scam. I lost money by getting involved. And it's just down to test with small amounts when you come in new, do your research, get used to how things are all working in there. So, it says that Indy now has the second highest TVL behind Minswap.
Yeah.
Dude, this is wild. That IBTC to ADA ratio has stayed between 60,500 ADA per IBTC and 68,000 ADA per IBTC for almost a month.
That's pretty good, actually.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
That ratio is like pretty stable. That, I guess ADA must be following Bitcoin very closely.
Yeah, I'd say.
Yeah.
So if you think like Bitcoin's going to make a breakout, that's when you just want to start looking at, hey, do I want to swap into some more of that? That's just what I'm thinking.
Yep. But you said something there, Paul, on the DEXs, which brings me on to my next topic, just to segue over. And while we're in a happy mood about things and we want to share about this. Minswap.
Let me catch up on the few last comments here on Indigo before we close that topic off.
Yep, dead on.
Alex says, but doesn't understand why you would deposit to the stability pool. The stability pool is what is used for the liquidations. So for being a part of that, any liquidations that happen, then the liquidation always gives back the protocol more than what the collateral was. And that's shared then out with people in the stability pool. So by being in the stability pool and helping them with the liquidity to liquidate some of the positions or some of the assets that are on the platform, that's what you share in the rewards then from that. So you can see there the ones that are in red are getting a bit risky. So if they are liquidated, it's the funds in the stability pool that allows that to be liquidated. And then you can get a share of the collateral then coming back to you. And there was a few other ones here.
There's a couple big ones up there. There's a 52,000 ADA liquidation right there. 255,000.
156. There's big players in here playing with this.
And actually that's changing. I don't know if it's changed already that the ratio is 120% minimum.
Yeah, and those are kind of low.
I can't remember the dates on that, but to me that's way too high. That's like Djed kind of stuff. And it's not as if the price of ADA has completely tanked or anything like that, that the collateral would be the issue. I would say these must have been low enough collateral ratio even when they were minted.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not something I would play with at them kind of levels. I'd be 150, 160 is where I'd like to be keeping my collateral ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can do it for fractions of a Bitcoin. You can do it with 100 ADA or 1,000. Some of them have a minimum. Some products have a minimum. But you can work on these with smaller amounts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crypto Chiropractor says there about the Pokey app. I've seen a few people mention that lately. I haven't got to use it yet, but just saying he hopes that Liqwid staking is represented in that fairly soon as well. Indy's recently gone up because the Indy staking rewards have been really nice. Yeah, the liquidations in the pool lately there's been a decent few of them. So fees are going back to providers. So that's incentivizing more people or encouraging more people to get involved. Enoch, I think I covered stability pools since you put that comment in, but if not, let me know. Under your wallet in Indigo, you can check all the rewards. Yeah, they have, once you have your wallet connected, you can go in and check all your rewards and you don't have to claim them every epoch either. I can't remember how many epochs you can leave them, but I have left them for 5 or 6 at least before claiming them. But is volunteering to be the bag holder on the weaker assets. For now, it's using your assets to help with the liquidations. But when you're getting involved you're putting in your IBTC into the IBTC pool. So essentially you pick the asset that you're getting involved in. Enoch says he meant third. That must be for the TVL. Liquidations are at 100%. No benefit for being the stability pool. No reserve. Super risky. I thought, maybe I have this wrong, Alex. I'll have to go back and research it. But I thought the liquidations, they were at 110% collateral. Or if you go below that, you're at risk. But they were changing that to 120. But I will have to go back because if you
collateralize these things to like 200%, I'm assuming it's going to go like green. Yeah. You're going to get like a green 200 and your safety margin is massive. Okay. Okay, so people are collateralizing at 4,000%. So they put 27 ADA towards. Okay, I'm going to try this when we're done here. They put 27 ADA towards 0.0001 IBTC.
Yeah.
Okay, so that person is like they put in a small amount of ADA, high ratio, safe bet, and then see what did I earn. Okay, so. All right, I'm tracking now. And I want to try it with iETH too, because that'll be interesting with ETH.
Yeah,
after the Shanghai, like if Shanghai is a big hit, maybe ETH will go up, maybe iETH will follow it. Who knows? We're going to find out.
Just on the liquidations, I will check into that and clarify it. Daniel says there they are at 110, and then IUSD is at 120. But I will check into that to clarify. Maybe next week we can touch on it just to make sure on that. Whether it's at the 100 or 110, I think it has to be above 110 to make sure there are fees there to incentivize the users to use the stability pools. But now I'll let you go on to Minswap, Paddy.
Yeah, no problem. Cool. So Minswap, awesome guys. Look at this. Highest one-day volume, but it's going places. I'm really happy for them. I think they're on top in terms of dexes at the minute. I think it'll take a big push for anyone to take over them, but you never know what'll happen. But this is awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, they've continually improved since they launched, continually bringing out new features. So they deserve the #1 spot now at the minute. They're the one that are setting the standard for others to follow.
Yeah. And I can't believe it, actually. And it shows you things are moving. But dexes are going to do better the more applications are released, is the way I see it. So the growth goes hand in hand. The more products we have, Indigo, Djed, Liqwid, those all things coming out. There's more tokens, more people doing more things. There's more tokens to be traded on dexes. So you can see how that's going to continuously progress together. All these other applications that are coming, they're going to go into the dexes. There's going to be hundreds of people interested in those products and those tokens and trade them as well. So I think this is like a beaten continuously for a long time.
Yeah, as more protocols launch, we're going to have more and more opportunities. And something that Minswap do as well that others haven't done yet is what's the name of it? I can't think of it, where they take part of the fee and put it back into the min liquidity pair. They put it into the ADA min liquidity pair. Yes, fee switch. Couldn't think of that. So already they've put just nearly 84,000 ADA back into the min ADA pair, which is helping the depth of liquidity that's there and really stabilizing it. And they're taking 0.05%. So when you trade on a DEX, there is 0.3% fee goes to the liquidity pool providers. But what they're doing is taking 0.05% and putting that into this fee here, which goes back into the ADA min LP, which is helping give people more confidence in min. And you can see that in the chart. It started to do well the last while as well.
Yeah, it's a success, isn't it? Minswap is a success. It is growing. It's been used. It's increasing in volume. It's that, as you say, it's stabilizing. Price is stabilizing, and it's a success. What do you think?
Can you zoom that chart out a little bit? Wheel it out. So, oh wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. So up until release, and it's bottom, so normal.
So they used their fees to stabilize the price to keep it from dropping further, and it actually added some value to the token.
Yeah, cool. Exactly.
I suppose what they're doing is giving more depth and liquidity within that pair.
Now that's a small amount. They could come back again and do another vote. I don't know what the plans in that are, and they could probably increase that because it's a win-win, isn't it? Okay, they might lose a little bit on fees and rewards for that, but actually, if they move that into the pool and stabilize it more, build it up more, it actually will increase the price of min. So, you know, I can't, it might stay the same for a long time, but you can see how that's correlating.
It takes a small bit off everyone who provides liquidity in the pools. So generally that 0.3% would go to everyone that provides liquidity. And this is across, as far as I know, it's across all pools on Minswap. Yeah. So it is taking a small bit away from them, but it's helping stabilize the min pair there as well. So I'd like to see them take fees maybe at some point and pay them to holders. There's lots of different ways that it could go in the future. So it's interesting. I think they're always looking to innovate and do something different there, which is great to see.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, don't you get min on like almost every one of their farms? Like if I pair Wing Riders and ADA and an LP and then farm it, I get min on top of it.
The chart actually, Paddy, when you zoomed out, is a good example of what happens when a protocol launches first. Yeah. And I know this launched coming into a bear market, so it's extreme here. But generally, when something launches first and offers yield farming rewards, the token on launch generally goes up because people are excited. The protocol is launched. People will start to FOMO in a bit. But once yield farming rewards and stuff like that starts being paid out and paid out in the token, if there isn't any utility, then generally you're going to start to see people, they farm, they sell off. And when I see new protocols coming out and there's high percentages for farming and stuff like that, generally I'll jump in the beginning as well. I will farm in the beginning, and when we go below certain percentages of returns, that's when I start to pull out of the farms. And as I'm farming, it's generally selling off back into ADA or something else that I want, rather than holding the token for the protocol that you're on. Now, there are exceptions, but generally if there isn't much utility in the beginning, which a lot of cases when a protocol launches, there isn't that much utility outside of voting, then the price is generally going to go down. So it's a good example to take for most protocols, and then they will find their bottom and find use cases, and the good protocols they will find use cases, utilities, and start to push the token back up then. But maybe we're getting too much into token price and talk, and that's not what we're here for.
Yeah, but you know, it is a good thing, you know, and it's as you can see from the price, it's made a difference. And as you were saying earlier, it's confidence building. And a lot of people coming in here, they want to. There's a lot of people who stayed away for a bit, but once you start to see things like this, it gives you more confidence to be able to join and take part. Well, for me, anyways.
Yeah, I see Bob says here about no, there are requirements for yield farming to have min 600k TVL and 2 weeks of non-incentive trading. So I think this means for new pairs that come on and get yield farming. Bob, if I'm reading that right. It's also because they switched to dynamic emissions. They launched with fixed emissions. Yeah, the emissions definitely makes an impact, and it's a video I need to get out fairly soon as well, especially in around Liqwid, and people are becoming more aware of emissions and what it means. But on a high level, basically when a protocol launches, generally there's going to be a certain number of tokens coming into supply every month. So if there isn't enough of buying pressure on that, so say a token launches, you look at Liqwid as a good example. There was a very small number of tokens in circulation when it launched first. The tokens came out last year as an airdrop, and the team got a small amount as well. So that was a very small number of tokens. So there was lots of buy pressure there for that small amount of tokens. But say then you start bringing in 200,000 more tokens. So you have 100,000 in circulation. I'm not sure the Liqwid numbers right now, but say you have 100,000 in circulation, and then every month you're going to have, I think it's something like 400,000 coming into circulation. So you really need a lot of buy pressure on that if it's going to sustain whatever the price is at. And in most cases, there isn't that buy pressure early on. And that's when things start to get sold off. But I will put something together on that soon. But what's up next, Paddy? I'm just looking at the time. And
well, I think I have endless topics, but we'll probably cover one or two more.
Yep, go for it.
Right. So we have, I think it's a good topic actually, and not that. No, sorry, pardon me. This one, Sidechains, and I just wanted to go on ADA Pulse. There's It's a nice news site that I check out regularly for good Cardano news. But Sidechains, the Cardano sidechain is on testnet. So for me, I think this is pretty big. And the questions I'll come back to you guys with is, the possibilities. But the testnet is live, Paul. I think you have a plan to set up something there eventually.
For which was this? Sorry,
sidechain. Were you gonna investigate it technically? Were you?
Yeah, I connected up with MetaMask early on to the IOG one that they've put out, the EVM sidechain, but I connected up and I got the faucet, but I didn't get to do anything else yet and try and transfer assets from the sidechain into the Cardano testnet yet.
Yep.
But I just didn't get enough time today to do it. But I will do that over the next few days to test it out.
Yeah, it was just a touch on the important one, I guess, is for the minute.
This is the one that
There's other sidechains in that article I'll come back to in a minute. But this is the one you're referring to. The toolkit is on testnet.
IOG put out, they have put a testnet up or a sidechain up on testnet. So it has the EVM sidechain, which you can connect to using MetaMask, and then you should be able to connect in on the Cardano. I think they have a dedicated Cardano testnet as well. Mm-hmm. From what I was reading, it's not the pre-prod or preview testnets. It's a different one. So I wasn't able to, I only had a small bit of time today, and I don't think the Cardano wallets support that test net yet. You have to do it through the CLI, which I didn't have time to dive into today, but I will over the next few days. So it's good to see progress on it.
Is there a name for it?
I think they just call it the EVM sidechain.
Very good. Very imaginative.
There used to be various names. For example, Yella, IELE, as a side chain, and the KEVM or something
Mamba
like that.
Was,
Mamba was
meant to be the EV.
What's that? Mamba was meant what?
Yeah, I haven't heard of Mamba in a while. Originally, that was meant to be the EVM sidechain, wasn't it? By IOG, but
I'm glad they just call it the EVM sidechain, because that gives me less to remember, because they're all the same thing. I mean, the Yella, the KVM, all those other names. Okay, it's an EVM sidechain. So if someone wants to connect an Ethereum-based chain to Cardano, the EVM sidechain is what they would do it with. I was just struggling myself a couple of months ago saying, okay, what's really the difference between a sidechain and a layer 2? So the sidechain can run as its own ecosystem connected to the main chain, getting the security from the main chain. And I guess you can deploy your own token, native asset, not native, but the primary underlying token.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can make different rule sets for that chain. For example, I mean, I don't know what the use cases would be.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
For like a clone of the Cardano main chain with ADA, and then make a side chain and connect it back to the Cardano main chain. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the use case for that would be. Maybe you could test different network parameters, not test, but play around with, how would a network behave if we had different parameters. And then the EVM side chain. I'm glad to see it's on testnet. I'm curious to see what use cases evolve from that, because there's a lot of products built on Ethereum that might be able to use that, or they could already use Mukamata as well, which is a layer 2 solution.
What would be...
It's Ethereum compatible.
And this is a question we can probably do some research on. If I'm an EVM sort of Ethereum application at the minute, what would be some of the things that I would think about when I'm looking at the Cardano EVM sidechain or Mukamata? Is there going to be certain things that will base my decision on who I use? Is there things in there? I don't fully get it. The differences between the two. Is it mainly the security?
Who'd be a good person to ask this would be Sebastian Guillemot, because he could probably describe, let's say you're a developer deploying your application on Mukamata or on the EVM sidechain.
Yeah.
What are the differences you get as a developer between using one or the other, and what is the impact? Like, you might be able to just out of the box drop things right on top of Milkamana, and it just works. Like, you take a fully developed Ethereum product like Card Stack, which is one of the products run on Ethereum, or a game, or any DeFi app, and drop it on top of Milkamana, and it works. You don't have to worry about the underlying blockchain at all. But if you bootstrap it on a side chain, there might be some more work involved. You don't have to take care of the security, because the Cardano main chain provides that, and the side chain is just doing whatever it needs to with its own rule set. But I do not know the details well enough to say what is the advantage to using one or the other, or in what use cases would you use a side chain as opposed to Milkamana?
No,
EVM side chain.
Interesting stuff. And I think you're a good topic there, Rick, actually.
Let's get some smart people on here to talk about that.
Yeah. The smarter ones. We'll have to find the smarter ones.
It looks like Roki1 knows a little more about it.
That side chain will be on the compute layer. And in one case where you have the gaming software tally up for scores and transactions, then they reconcile recorded on
the settlement layer. Yes, that is exactly the case I've heard described as well as the same. He's saying there, the compute layer, Cardano CL, and the Cardano settlement layer. Currently, the network we're running today, Cardano as it exists, technically the settlement layer and the compute layer are both smashed into one. Okay. And then what you want to do is get your compute off onto a different chain. I don't know, maybe AGIX would have to run its own side chain. The World Mobile might run it as a side chain, right? And they don't need to worry about consensus. They just worry about making block snapshots and transactions, or whatever it is they're doing on that network, slots and snapshots and transactions, and then the block consensus comes from the Cardano main chain, right? So there's different ways they can do that, and I think like World Mobile that's going to be a side chain built with the Cosmos SDK, right? Okay. So they don't have to worry about block producers providing consensus. They just run their chain, their node network as they need to, and it will look back to the Cardano chain and say to get the security proper.
It makes sense for a lot of these projects to do things like this. I think when More Mobile first announced what they were doing, and they were like, "Oh, this isn't on Cardano. What's going on? What's it all about?" But then when you realize and think about it, there's going to be that many transactions on that network when they eventually grow and get to a certain amount of users, and the transactions are going to be minimal. They're going to be so small. They're going to be usage based for mobile network, so it could be 1 or 2 cents or whatever it's going to be. And they need to be able to set their own transaction fees. It's likely if they had ran it all on Cardano and on the main chain, the fees for processing the transaction would have been more than most of the transactions, and that's just something that's not feasible. It's not worth the money. You're charging more people for using their phone than what it actually costs to process the transaction. So it's control over that for a lot of these projects. And the one you touched on is gaming is going to be, that's massive in that area. They need to be able to have their own blocks and transactions flowing. You think about the volume, plus also you don't want to be charging people for playing a game. It's it's to settle things on up later on, but that sort of needs to be on its own chain.
Yeah, you mentioned Sebastian there, and he's definitely the person to talk on all the technicals of this. I actually recorded a call with him last week that'll come out tomorrow, and we touch on sidechains and layer 2s and all that type of stuff as well. But he has a very good video on his channel about why a project would choose a layer 2 or why they would choose a sidechain, and he does the whiteboard kind of talking about the different reasons why you would. Or some people need faster blocks, some people might need bigger blocks, they might need the consensus of Cardano, or they might need the security. And there's a lot of different factors to take into consideration on why you choose layer 2s or sidechains, and it's still above my level. I'm diving into it, and as I talk to people like Sebastian and that, I understand a little bit more every time, but I definitely have a long way to go in it. But he's the type of guy to follow. I think that's on the DC Sparks YouTube channel. But when I put the video out tomorrow, I'll link that one that I'm talking about as well.
Sweet.
Cool. I need to watch that.
And just to finish up, and I didn't want to go into too much in detail on sidechains, and we'll probably cover it over the next couple of weeks as testnet progresses, you know, but it is a part of the ecosystem that is developing, like everywhere. You know, we have this part of the house is growing, and I do expect a lot more. Now, one area, and then I'm just going to throw it out there, maybe IOG will hear me, is Midnight. I'd love to see more info on what's happening and what's the plans, and how that's all going to work. And I'm assuming it might use the toolkit that's being built, and maybe it's part and parcel. I don't know. Do you guys know any more or heard anything else?
No.
No, I haven't heard anything since Scott Fest. It's been mentioned once or twice, but no details on it though.
Yeah. But the only details that I'm interested in at this point in time is that it's not pure 100% stealth privacy. It means you as the user, I have the ability to give someone else permission to see my data or not.
Yeah.
So that was what I read as one of the critical factors of Midnight as a side chain is your data can be stored. Don't clog the main chain with all that bullshit data, right? Yeah. I don't need my medical records out there on a main chain. Go stuff them somewhere else where they belong in the database behind the firewall, right? But on the Midnight side chain, you're going to be able to give someone permission to access that data or not. And you're going to have the ability to revoke that permission, right? Instead of the current world, it's the other way around, like kind of the other way around. If I put a piece of my data in a public services database, that information could be available to a large number of people that I don't want them to have it. Yeah. Right. So we'll see. I think it's a great
on
idea.
That one. I gotta check some things out on that one, Paul. Could be something
midnight, is it?
Yeah. Can I do something?
Most of us are going to be in for the coin. The main coin is going to be called Dust, right?
Yeah.
I thought it would be called Dusk. I swear when they said it was DUSK, which makes sense because midnight and dusk.
Yeah.
And then they're calling it Dust. I'm like, nah, don't recycle the word dust. We already used that on Cardano main chain to refer to the Lovelaces that are left over when you do transactions. I got dust in my wallet.
It's a good distinction on it.
Cake. Dusk. Let's rename it right here. Okay.
Yeah.
So let it be written. So let it be done. Just change the name.
We're giving our recommendations. I didn't actually think of that, Rick. Well done. Yeah,
I thought they were saying dusk. Like, and I'm going, I'm half deaf. I'm like, I don't know what the hell they're saying. I thought they said dusk. Then I read it. And I read it and read the spelling. Yeah. I'm like, don't use dusk because that sounds like DUST.
Yeah.
Right? Do you really want people to get confused with DUST? No, I don't.
Yeah. I see.
Right?
Yeah.
Naming's important.
A banned word.
Come on, crypto people.
I hadn't even thought about
pick a name. Pick a good name. Don't pick these stupid fucking names like the word trustless. That's the worst possible word you could use, but somehow cryptos adopted that word. And I'm like, come on, people. If you go look up the definition of trustless in Merriam, or Merriam-Webster's or any of the common dictionaries, the definition is not good.
What we'll do is anybody starting a project, they send the names to yourself, Rick, and you can give your inputs, and you'll be able to tell them, how they improve upon it.
Yeah, actually, someone was asking there, Rick, what's the best
the only thing I can provide is common sense, and I don't have much of that left. But Oasis, that's a good question you got from Oasis. There is there a side chain planned for ERG-ADA? Currently, I don't know.
There is a bridge, though, isn't there? Being worked on.
Rosen Bridge.
That's the one.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not a side chain. It's a bridge that uses multisig on the Cardano side and smart contracts multisig on the Ergo side. There's two types of nodes called Guardians and Watchers. It's super cool stuff. I've read up a lot about it, and I'm pretty stoked. I'm looking forward to the Rosen Bridge.
Nice.
Because you'll be able to transfer. Let's say you have a drip token on the Cardano side, and you send it through the Rosen Bridge. It'll be RS drip on the other side.
Nice.
And then so you can do whatever, batch your transactions over there, run it through the dexes over on that side. But the more important thing would be is if you put wrapped Bitcoin on Ergo using this type of Rosen Bridge multi-sig technology, you could also move it over to the Cardano side as well. And that's where cool stuff starts happening.
Nice. Yeah. Ergo is something I need to catch up on. I had some of the team on, it's well over a year ago at this stage, to talk about what they were doing. But it's a project I need to catch up on, because it's one that doesn't get enough media attention, I'd say, for what they do build there. And just on that one, it was about the on-off ramp as well. Tired of dealing with CEX's centralized exchanges. The only one that I know of would be USDA from Ansens and Emergo, but anytime you're dealing with on-off ramps, then you're going to have KYC and everything there. But outside of a centralized exchange, I would say something like Ansens and USDA would be a way. Someone was asking Rick, actually, the best way to get in contact with you, just when you say about consultations there, is there a best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, just bang on me on Twitter. I'm really bad about following up on my DMs, but shoot me a DM on Twitter or hit me up in public. That's perfectly fine. Just hit me up and say, hey, Rick, I want to talk to you about something, blah, 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 blah. But just make sure. I do get a lot of those. I do get a lot of that. I can't do all of them. I appreciate everyone trying to do that. But yeah, I'll do what I can. Hit me up on Twitter with that. That's the best way to contact me, or on Telegram. My Telegram handle is at Rick McCracken. It's spelled just like my last name is all one handle. Watch out for scammer Ricks. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of impersonators out there. Make sure you're talking to the right one.
Yep. Calls here for Ethereum to be a sidechain on Cardano and Dogecoin to be a sidechain of Cardano as well instead of Litecoin.
Will become the dog chain.
Right.
It's interesting. It depends on how you define a side chain, because we were talking about earlier, the definition of the side chain was it doesn't provide its own security mechanism. It gets its security from the main chain, right? So the EVM side chain will derive its security from the block producers on the Cardano main chain, right? But Doge already has its own security mechanism in the form of proof of work. So I don't know how, personally, I don't know how Doge would become a sidechain. But what would be interesting is if you could wrap Doge on Cardano, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Because Doge has an unlimited supply, and then you could use Cardano's rich voting technologies. There's a lot of voting technology that's been developed already on Cardano between Sunday Swap, Trip Drops, Itala Prism, and Catalyst. And you'd be able to move some wrapped Doge in order to conduct some sort of voter-based weighting, the holder-based weighting votes. Of course, you could do that without wrapping it, moving to Cardano. But I don't think it would be a sidechain. I think you'd wrap it. And then bridge it in.
Bring some competition in for Hosky.
Yeah, probably drive the price of Hosky to zero. It'll make sure it stays zero.
Yeah.
All right, 2 hours, Paddy. New record. What have we left?
I have one more topic, and it's not Cardano, but it's wider crypto. And I'm gonna bring it in. I think it could be something that could be part of Cardano, who knows? But the Central Bank of England has announced a digital pound. I think China was the other country to be announcing they're doing something. a lot of
They done tests
countries
last year, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of places have hemmed and had, and they're doing this and they're investigating that. But it does now. There's no release date, but they're putting out a lot of info. You can contact them. You can do a lot of things. They're telling everybody how you can use it, and and all these great things. And it's not a crypto asset. I'll come to a disclaimer point here somewhere where they say it's not a crypto asset. But I want to know what you guys think of this, and anybody who's watching, what they think about central bank coins. We have all our stable coins. They come with their own risks too. Do you feel more confident that the bank is securing, the central bank of a country is securing we call it a stable coin because it's always going to be worth, in this scenario, £1. What do you guys think? What's your thoughts on this? Is this what we want in crypto?
I have a weird take on this.
Go for it.
Paul, you want to go first?
Oh, no, I want to hear this weird take.
Okay. I'm not really worried about central bank digital currencies. And the reason being is, I've worked with government before, and they're good folks, but government is slow. Private industry moves way faster, way more innovative, very highly maneuverable, more so than government. Private industry and private blockchains will always be way ahead of government-created blockchains. Blockchain, government just has the weight of, okay, well, the government said so, right? But remember, you're a voter. We all live in democracies, and we can do our thing as voters and write our elected representatives. Now, so here's the deal. Let's say they make a central bank digital currency and it's worth $1. Now, someone earlier was asking about fiat on-ramps, so they don't want to use a centralized exchange. Well, people in private industry in crypto, in Cardano, Ethereum, Solana, Polkadot, all these, they'll say, you know what? They'll figure out a way and say, we can actually use these CBDCs to our advantage by, you no longer have to go to an exchange. We'll just bridge those things right into our blockchain. We'll either build a bridge or a DEX, and that way you don't need to go to centralized exchange for a fiat on-ramp. You don't have to go to a bank for, connect your bank to Kraken or connect your bank to Coinbase. Somehow you'll be able to just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to send it from my Apple Card on my phone straight into Minswap or straight into Wing Riders, right? That's probably where we'll be 5 to 10 years from now, because if they make CBDCs, the private industry is going to be ahead of them all the time. And they're going to say, okay, well, how do we use that to our advantage? And somebody's going to figure it out.
Yeah.
All right. Now, the things that worry people, what worries people about CBDCs is if they program the money that says you're only allowed to buy 1 liter of milk per week, right? So that's what people are worried about is if the government, like this omnipotent Borg of an empire, says you're only allowed to have 1 liter of milk per week and we're going to throw the rest away, right? That's what people are worried about. Now, the thing is, we all live in democracies. If you're worried about it, go yell at your elected representatives, or in other words, write them politely with tact and diplomacy and say, hey, don't abuse central bank digital currencies, or we, the voters, are going to take away your authority to control them as best we can, right? So that's just that's my weird take on it. Private industry will always be ahead. And don't forget, if you don't like CBDCs, write your elected representatives. If you don't write them, they won't know what you're thinking. So you got to write them.
I'll come back to you in a second, Paul, but just on your programmability, Rick. So this is their consultancy paper. We'll call it the Central Bank of England's white paper, I guess. They're saying they will not implement programmable functions. That's been a massive point for a lot of people for a long time on why they didn't want to use central bank digital currencies. Yeah. But
those features would require user consent.
Yeah.
Right there.
It's the private sector. So it's going to be the people who comes in front of the central bank, who's the issuers and do everything with it, that potentially might do things that implement some sort of function. So I say the bank said they're not doing it, but let's see. Who knows? And Paul, what do you think?
If I wanted to send you, let's say I had CBDCs and I wanted to send you $10,000 worth of CBDC, and that's worth 9,800 pounds or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're in Ireland. You don't use pounds in Ireland. What do you use?
Oh, we use both pounds and euro.
Use pounds and euros. Yeah, it's kind of a mix, but both, I guess. Right. And I go to send it to you. Now, your bank, if I was sending it through your bank, they might say, oh, no, you're not allowed to send more than a certain amount of money through, right?
Yeah.
They might throttle that. But if the CBDCs operate in a peer-to-peer environment, there's no bank between me and you. So in that case, I would be able to send it to you with no problem. As long as I was complying with the other laws that are out there, like reporting and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think CBDCs, people get kind of uptight about them, but they're only going to suck as bad as you let them suck. Like they're probably going to do it no matter what. I don't know what the pros and cons are. There's no difference between running it on a database like we do today and running it on a blockchain. Maybe there is a difference. I don't know. For at least as far as fiat currencies are concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's this thing?
Sorry?
A day in the life of a digital pound user?
Yeah, because people I wanted to show this people who have digital money live differently. But I wanted to get your inputs, Paul. What do you think?
I think digital money is going to be inevitable. It is going to come in. Eventually, they will do away with like actual physical money because you don't have full control on what happens with that. So CBDCs, whether it's that or another form of digital money, they will bring something in. But it's like, how much control do they actually have? So you talked there about programmability and what they can do. I think there's certain cases where having programmability in it isn't a bad thing. Like in the case of social welfare payments and stuff like that, unfortunately, I've seen people who will just take the money and spend it all on drink and different things rather than spending it on their families and that. And I think in them kind of cases, you could program it that it has to be spent in certain places and things like that. I think could be good, but you can't control all narratives. You could look at it like they will always want control. Can they always come like they can do with their bank account, with your bank account, put their hand into it and pull out their funds, or not their funds, pull out your funds whenever they want? That's where crypto should always have the advantage, is that you are the one that's in control of the funds that sit in your wallet, and no one else can come in and put their hand into your wallet and take it out. Where from everything I've seen on CBDCs, they will always have that control. I suppose you could look at it like USDT, USDC on Ethereum. Is that a form of it as well? That can be frozen, that can be taken control of. There's similarities there. So like it's like crypto regulation. It's going to come into play at some point. And what we need is the people who understand all of this. Like Charles done lots of work last year, kind of went a bit quieter then with FTX and everything. But we need people like that to stand up and show that what is good and what isn't so good. Like you don't want to stifle innovation. I suppose it's coming back more to crypto regulation, but you want to be able to encourage innovation and catch out some of the, or not some, a lot of the crimes and scams and stuff that are taking place there, but let the good stuff flourish there. And I think with CBDCs, we need the same thing. We need input from people who understand it and who can actually set good regulations in on that side as well, that they can't take full control of everything you have unless there's some sort of precedence there or some sort of reasons of why the entitlement is actually there to do it. But see, Pete here says about Igor is a good person to talk to. He works at EY Research. I haven't come across him before, but I could look into that. Oasis says credit cards already pose the CBDC surveillance rationing threat, in my opinion. Yeah, I suppose they can see everything that you're buying and selling. One thing I would say is my wife has a local business and there's less kind of cash in circulation now, but every time someone uses a credit card, you're losing 2 to 3%, maybe 4%, depending on fees on everything. Maybe CBDCs have an advantage in that there wouldn't be the usual credit card fees if they're paying with digital cash like that. So potentially that could be a selling point for them if they're trying to bring it in instead of cash, that for smaller local businesses, then there's going to be far less fees than people using credit cards and stuff like that, because we are going digital. Like the majority of people now just use your card rather than having cash. What else we got? Alex says we need representatives and he says about having them banned before they get started. I don't think we're going to have them banned, or if they might come in under a different name, but digital money run by governments is going to come, in my opinion. Could be wrong on it, but I think it's going to come. It just depends on what form we let it come in.
Yeah, I gotta understand them a little better myself, because sometimes I say to myself, all right, so CBDCs are supposed to have clawback technology. Clawback means if it's sent from point A to point B, there's some intermediary who has the ability to say that was a mistake, claw it back, or that was a hack, claw it back, claws the money back to where it came from. Now, what I'm trying to understand is what is the difference between what we have today and CBDCs? So what we have today is if I use my Apple card and I go to the taco store and I buy a taco and I use my Apple card, I didn't actually pay them yet. Apple paid them.
Yeah.
Then I pay Apple back at the end of the month. Or if I use my bank Visa card, Visa didn't pay them. I didn't pay them. Wait, actually, no, my bank didn't pay them and I didn't pay them. Visa paid them. I pay my bank back and the bank pays the Visa back or some shit like that. Some fucking roundabout fuckery going on there. So sorry if I swear. I didn't know if I'm allowed to swear in here. I'll stop.
You're good. Go for it.
Okay.
Well, after hours.
All right. So after hours. And so, what is the difference with the CBDC? Does it have a unique digital property to where if you have a CBDC pound or dollar, like, does it have uniqueness? Does it have, you can't double spend it.
Yeah.
You can't counterfeit it. It can live on its own. Like if it's living on my phone and I turn my phone off, that CBDC no longer is aware of the world until I turn my phone back on. Like, is that how it's going to work? Right. You know what I'm saying? It has no awareness until, or is it going to work like blockchain, Bitcoin, Cardano, where as long as you have a wallet that can see the network, you can move your tokens around? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I guess.
I mean, I'm thinking it's going to work just like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and everything else in Cardano. Yeah. It's just going to be, I don't know, maybe more like Algorand, where it does have clawback technology.
Yeah. One question I would have for you guys is, and so a lot of people are pro and con CBDCs. They're coming. Like you say, Rick, it takes governments a little bit longer to catch up. But would you like to see the likes of Djed, reserves partially in CBDCs, or even any other type of asset? Is that something that you think would be a good thing?
I don't know, but it'll probably end up being a trading pair somewhere.
Yeah,
it'll probably end up being a trading pair.
Definitely. Once people get their hands on that, or once crypto people get their hands on that, they'll bring it in. They'll bring it on the chains.
Yeah, like you might be able to get digital CBDC on Coinbase and then take it off into the Cardano network. Yeah. Do whatever degeneracy you want. Buy you an ape JPEG, whatever the fuck you want to do. And when you're done, bring it back to Coinbase, back to a CBDC, put it in your bank account.
That's it.
So I wouldn't be surprised. I don't see them as a huge threat. I'm not worried about them because I trust private industry to stay well ahead of government.
Yeah.
And I trust my fellow citizens to keep government on, in check to some degree. Like, make sure they're not doing stupid shit.
Yeah, definitely.
Which it's hard. It's hard. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of effort to make sure they're not out there doing stupid shit when you're not looking.
I'm gonna keep a watch on that and the progress of it. You can actually give them feedback, so maybe I'll read their white paper and give them feedback.
CBDC, Bank of England.
Yeah,
that would be neat. I need to read further up on that because U.S. However the Bank of England do it, the U.S. will probably kind of mirror that.
Yeah,
because we trade bad habits all the time. You know,
Yes.
UK comes up with a really bad habit, US usually picks up on it, and vice versa. It's a great trade. It's a great relationship.
Exactly. Well, I think that's it for me, guys. I've covered most. There's more topics we could do, but we'll leave them until next week. And Paul, is there any closing comments that we want to go through?
I think we covered a lot in that. I'll try and go back tomorrow and put some rough timestamps on it for people who want to see certain sections or that. But I won't be doing that tonight because we're 11:15 here in Ireland now. So I'll be tidying up a few messages after this and going to bed. But tomorrow I'll do that. But Rick, really appreciate you coming on. Great to get your insights, have a chat about everything that's going on. And thanks very much for your time. At some point in the future, you're very welcome back at any stage as well. We're hopefully going to continue this every week, doing live streams like this. And hopefully people get value from watching them out there as well. Anyone watching, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, if you want to see this every Wednesday night. And I put out a few other videos during the week as well.
Yeah, thanks, gentlemen. I appreciate you having me on. I'll come back whenever you want.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I enjoyed your insights. It was great crack.
You bet.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. Thanks to everyone watching. We appreciate it. We will see you back here next week. Oh, you got a rocket from...
I got an Doja rocket.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
3D NFT.
Yeah, I have an interview on the channel probably 2-3 months ago with the Doja team. Anyone that's interested in checking it out, you can check that out. And I think they have... What have they launched recently, Rick? I know they launched the NFTs, was it, for their rocket?
Yeah, so it was the rocket one. There's a couple other ones, but it's anything that could be 3D printed. It's a 3D printed NFT.
It's awesome.
So what they launched was 3D printing of NFTs, and I'm a space fan, so I got the Doja rocket.
We'll have that. Well, I think we were talking about having NFTs as a general topic. Maybe next week.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Haven't set it up yet, but one of the next few weeks, maybe next week, we'll kind of do it dedicated to diving into the NFT side on Cardano and see what I can find, and maybe try and find a few guests around the community that are deeper into that space as well.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, guys. We will talk to you next week, and see you soon.
See you all later. Bye.